episode of Cherish TV. We are so glad you tuned in. We're going to have some fun. And we're going to have some real talk.
Yes.
So should we apologise in advance, girls?
We probably should.
And
Probably.
say-
I don't know what we're apologising for, but probably.
Yes, give us a ton of grace. We're excited you're here and tuning in for what is really history in the making. We're going to have some fun. You're pretty much just peering in to the conversation between five really good friends here today, of whom I'm about to introduce.
Okay. All right.
Come on.
I'm going to start with the goddess on my left, Becky Heinrichs.
Hi, everyone.
So those of you, I'm going to give you a little bit of insight into this girl known as Pastor Becky. Becky worked as a deputy probation officer in the Violent Crimes Unit.
Don't mess with
Bam.
That's right.
Don't mess
Do
with
not
Becky.
mess with her.
No.
Specializing in violent sex offences.
Yes.
Well, we're going to get some stories later.
Oh,
hopefully.
yes.
She is now a full-time mum and pastor, and we've learned that you can take the girl out of the probation office, but you can't take the probation officer out of the girl.
I'm sorry.
Can anybody say amen to that?
I can definitely
Yes,
say
we've
amen.
all had
Yes,
interactions
yes.
Sweet.
with
Spicy.
probation Becky.
We love you, Becky.
She is passionate, funny, smart, and courageous. She is the kind of friend that will always, somebody say always,
Always.
tell you if you have something stuck in your teeth or
Yes.
stuck to your butt.
Yes, you want me as your
You're a true friend.
I'm
I
so
need a friend
nice.
like you, Becky. I need a
I'm
friend
so
like
nice.
you.
Yeah,
You are.
yes. She tells the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth, so help us God.
Yes.
And you're going to
God
see truth-telling Becky in her finest element here in this next
try.
half hour we have together. And to my right here, beautiful Brianna Chittick.
Oh, Emma.
I switched it up. I switched it up.
I'm just more important.
Oh, okay, let's start. All right, let's do this.
There we go. Ding, ding. Brianna is our Amazon princess warrior, taller than everyone else, including her husband.
It's true.
Born in the USA, she speaks 3 languages, Spanish,
See?
Dutch,
Ik kan dat doen?
there you go, and English.
Yes, I do speak English.
That's kind of intimidating, Breezy.
I know. With 3 baby girls and 1 on the way. Congratulations, 4 girls.
you.
I'm one of 5. It's the best. I have 4 sisters. They're all my best friends. 3 babies. She's on the journey to becoming C3's octomom.
Oh, gosh.
No. Only 4 to go, Breezy. Only 4 to go.
Don't do it. I'm done at 4 people.
Men love her and women want to be her, but her heart is not for sale. It belongs to Jesus. High five.
Yay,
You're a
Brittany.
good girl. Emma Davies, time for you, sweet
Now I can do my
Em.
senator wave.
Our
Yay.
senator in red, our lady
I
in
do
red
look
on
like
the
a
end.
senator. Do you want to do a little song for me too?
Lady in red.
Yes.
Yes.
I just thought a theme tune would be
We bust
appropriate.
into song
We do
quite
that.
randomly and
Regularly. And
dance.
spontaneously.
Yep.
Yes, and dancing. So Emma is the United Nations in human form. Born in England to South African parents, she was raised in Australia and now calls America home.
I do. I love America.
Yes,
you do.
and we're so grateful. Emma worked for many years as a special needs teacher, specialising in work with both
Oh, yeah.
autistic and Down syndrome children.
The best job. Love it.
You're a legend, yes. Emma has never known a stranger, and anybody who's spent any time with Emma knows this
oh
is
my goodness.
exactly
She loves
God's
everyone.
honest truth.
I do.
And she has no, like,
Filter? I know.
inhibitions, no filter, no inhibitions
Working on
whatsoever.
it.
She's amazing.
She's real and refreshing.
That's a nice way to put
Yes.
it. Yes.
And Emma, you're voted most likely to meet a celebrity and get invited backstage.
I will take
For
that
the
vote.
right reason.
Yes, for the right reason.
For the right, just need
For
to
the holy and
clarify.
virtuous reasons.
not that kind of show.
Because that's right.
That's good to know.
Yes. Emma also has a slightly unhealthy obsession with Justin Bieber.
Oh yeah, that is.
And
True.
yes,
So true.
and
Yes,
Erwin McManus.
yes,
You
yes.
did tell Erwin McManus
Oh,
when he was
no.
here that you wanted to tattoo
no.
his name on your heart.
Oh, no.
Don't
Ew.
judge
So-
me. It's no.
That's weird.
It's kind of in the
though, was it? He'll remember me.
It's in the stalker category, not gonna lie.
It is.
But your
But
love
he
for
will remember
people is quite
And-
astounding and very encouraging there. So yes.
All right, I think there was a compliment there. I will take
Yes,
it.
yes, we love you, Emma. Stacey Capaldi, our beautiful Jewish Italian princess. She's sugar and spice and everything nice.
That's right.
Yes.
Sometimes found to be the only adult in the room, Stacey knows what to say and how to say it. And she also knows when it needs to be said.
That's
Timing
right.
is everything, girls. Timing is everything.
Brilliant at that.
I'm learning.
Born in New York City, she spent 10 years in Ecuador with her missionary parents. Stacy is fluent in Spanish,
Claro que sí.
yes, and English.
I speak English pretty well.
And she's one heck of a good cook. All of those who have eaten Stacy's pasta
Carrot
with
souffle,
pesto.
best.
Carrot souffle.
haven't
It's
had
the
that.
best thing
I don't
ever.
even know where
You
the
have
tradition
never
came
cooked
from.
for me.
Yes.
Well,
I'm
Becky,
offended.
you need to invite me over.
I've had it lots
Okay.
of times.
Yes.
But carrot souffle is a specialty of
And your
Sandoval.
tres leche. Your tres leche.
Oh, tres
That
leche.
needs to
Yeah,
make
that one.
that needs to make a reappearance sometime
Party
soon.
after the show.
Yes.
Amen to
But
that.
Stacey, your only known flaws are your spelling, which I am personally like the grammar and spelling police.
It's true. So you catch me every
Every time I'm like, this was
Like my
great.
flaw is just
However,
nationally known.
it's
This is
there,
good, yes.
not there. Like
Yeah.
it's the wrong there.
I'm gonna
Yeah.
blame it. I'm
Yeah.
gonna blame it
There.
on being raised in another
There.
nation. I'm trying my
Well,
best.
you know what? We all have our excuses, I suppose. So the spelling and
be
also your
perfect.
inability to talk and drive at the same time. And I would actually say it's more that the talking is the greater value than the driving.
I
So
am
the
direct-
talking
Well,
doesn't
scary.
suffer.
Driving with you is an extreme sport. I'm not
Well,
gonna lie.
I like to
It
do a lot of
is.
things at one time,
Noted.
and it's a shame that I am very directionally challenged and
Yeah.
could get lost in a circle, I will admit.
Admitting is the first step. So.
Thank you.
Yeah, very true. But there are a lot of women like that, actually. I know
Yeah.
for me, particularly when I'm given directions like turn east or
Okay,
go
yes,
east.
but depending on where you stand, it doesn't make any sense.
Well, if
I
you're
don't
going
see
south
very
on the
hard.
freeway,
Right
you
and
just
left.
turn left.
Oh
Yeah, I
my
don't
God.
understand any
But
of
see,
it.
that makes sense to your brain, but not mine. Like,
No.
that means nothing to
Yeah.
me.
Right, it
Right.
doesn't at
Yeah.
all. No,
Okay.
don't.
Please
East.
take
What
note.
is it?
Google
What
Maps
is
people,
east?
please take note.
Okay, so we're going to get into our first
Wait,
question.
but what about you?
Yes, we
Well,
want to talk about
Okay,
you.
what do we need to say about Pastor Leanne? I have several favorite stories. I do love the story. You were raised on a farm.
I was.
Yes.
A dairy farm in Australia.
Lots of cows.
Yes,
Yes.
lots of cows,
Awesome.
Friesians,
And
Jerseys.
the favorite cow, which was your cow, what
Yes.
was its name?
I got to name the cow, so I named it after myself.
Oh,
My
that makes
cow's
sense.
name was Leanne.
It's a great cow name right there.
And
I
then-
like it.
I'm an
I bet
animal
it lives
lover.
forever.
It didn't. Well, you know what? Here's the funny part of this. Well, it's not funny. It's sad because my cow went crazy.
Oh,
It actually, yeah, it went insane. And my uncle Don, who was the, like the head farmer, had to actually put the cow down. So my cow went crazy.
Did
and,
it get put
and got
down
shot.
onto a dinner table or put
No,
down
I
for
hope
good?
not. Like
can
they
eat
didn't
the
tell
cow.
me
Why
that
not?
part.
Eat the cow.
You
I'm
can't
from
eat
Oregon.
your pets.
If you eat meat, it's because you killed it yourself.
but I
or
don't know if
caught
I
it.
want to, if it's known that it's crazy.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah, that's where mad cow disease comes from. I think.
Okay.
It's like
Alright.
people are eating mad
Well,
cows.
sweet little cow Leanne
Yes.
was buried to rest in peace.
Yes, it was.
Yes.
Which is
Unlike
good.
you, who will hopefully live forever.
Yes.
Yeah. Amen. Amen. Glory to God. Well, we're going to get into our first question, girls, because I know the audience out there wants to know a little bit
Yes.
about what we think
Yep.
and what we
Yes.
feel about some certain topics. So we're going to talk about the Oscars this past Sunday.
Yes, let's
come
go
on.
The
there.
Oscars
Come on.
happen in Hollywood.
Yep.
And listen, I'm all about people celebrating each other for their great efforts. And,
Right.
and America is full of some phenomenal actresses and actors. And I
Right.
think they should absolutely have their night of awards. Here's what our president tweeted on Monday. Lowest rated Oscars in history.
Wow.
Problem is we don't have stars anymore, except your president. Just kidding, of course.
I love him.
Yes.
So funny.
He is funny. So girls, tell me some thoughts about why you think this past Oscars was the lowest rated in history. Like, what is happening in the world where people are kind of choosing to turn the channel?
Well, did any of you watch it? I think I was the only one that watched
No,
it. And
not
I
watched
watched
I
it
watched
after
some
the effects.
reruns.
Some highlights.
I was-
Yes.
Yeah, cut
Yeah.
clips after, yeah.
Well, I know I can speak for me personally. The main reason I didn't watch it is I feel the Oscars is now something completely different than just entertainment. I think
Yeah.
often it's making statements that are very political, very kind of counterculture to some things that I agree with. So to me, watching it is almost like I have to be in the right headspace because I know
Right.
it's going to affront a lot of my senses. That's kind of for me personally. I don't know about
Right.
you.
And was it like people really not watching it? Because here we are looking at all these, stars that are famous for what they did in the movies, which, let's be honest, it's pretending. It's
Right.
And
they're
now,
good at it.
And they're good at it, and we love it. We want to take,
Do
time
way
out
better
and-
than I could do.
Yeah,
yes.
it's great. But then I think, we're really now seeing where they're using that platform to speak on things like, politics and all of that. And really,
Right.
are they able to actually stand on that when that's really not their role?
Right.
Right.
And what they're really promoted for. So I think people are just kind of over it a little bit.
And people wanting to escape, don't you think?
Yes.
Like when we watch the movies, we want to pretend we are Wonder
Yes.
Woman fighting the
Yes.
Nazis. We
You
want
don't
to
have
go
to pretend too hard.
That's right. Yes, the Amazon. But so there's that element where the reality kind of collides with
Right.
our real desire to just escape from
Yes.
the everyday.
Yeah.
It's like, I don't want you to be that.
Yeah.
I want you to be
Right.
this. Can we just pretend for a second?
Yes.
And what is it
Yes.
that we're actually celebrating?
Right,
Like,
it's a great
the
question.
movies that were actually celebrated for 2017 and the
my
ones that
gosh.
won the most
Oh my
awards were not actually the box office hits.
Right.
So I was looking it up a little
Right.
bit, and I was like, I don't even know the names of some of these movies. And how was it that Wonder Woman, who grossed over $800 million,
Wow.
had no nominations? Like, so who's representing the actual,
Right.
the people in receiving the awards? Like, I'm confused on
So
how it
America's
works.
saying
Yeah.
this is the kind of movie we're watching, this is the kind of movie we love, but these are the movies, completely
Right,
different
you
ones,
tell
have been
me kind of
celebrated
movies.
Right,
and
well, can we,
awarded.
can we
So what-
talk about
yeah,
like the
yeah.
nominated movies? So it was so interesting to me looking, and this is what's a bigger question behind this. So what Hollywood puts out is shaping so much of culture. So why do we as
Yeah.
Christians have a comment on this? Is because what's celebrated becomes our culture. That's
Yes.
everywhere in
Yeah.
the church and in the world. So I want to take an interest in what is the world celebrating. And I think, in my opinion, the Academy is always looking for what's groundbreaking. And I can't help but notice what's groundbreaking these days is actually more perverse than it is groundbreaking.
so true.
I understand we've had some incredible groundbreaking moments. I do think there's recognition of different minorities that hadn't been recognized before. But
Yes.
what I saw looking at the nominees, I think of one
Yeah.
movie on there, Call Me By Their Name. Is actually a
Call Me
movie
By My
about
Name,
yeah,
yeah.
Call Me By My Name is about
Yeah.
an adult having a romantic, interaction with a minor, which in most states in America is actually
illegal.
illegal.
I think in
And
all,
we're
in all
celebrating.
50 states.
We have
yeah.
an entire
Yeah.
generation
It's a
clapping
it's a
that's
felony.
groundbreaking. It doesn't make any sense. That's for a confused world. That is so confusing.
It's groundbreaking for
Yes.
an adult to have a romantic relationship with a
Well,
minor.
well, Emma, read that
I
quote
do.
that
I
you
wanna read
found
it.
from Rolling Stone. I think that says it all, really.
So this is so interesting. So the Rolling Stone magazine called this movie the most romantic movie of the year, and the New Yorker called it an erotic triumph, an emotionally acute and overwhelmingly sensual. Like, this is talking about a romantic relationship between an adult and somebody's child. Yet we put it on the stage and we clap it like it's
And we give it
groundbreaking.
awards.
and we give it awards.
Like, somebody needs to say, like, is that okay?
Right.
And that's where the church has such a responsibility to not lose its voice.
Yes.
Because
Right.
I
I
find,
love that statement you make.
yeah, when the church loses its voice, the world
yeah.
loses its conscience.
Right.
So true.
So in the absence of the church standing up with the truth,
Right.
the lie gets a greater platform. And the lie needs to be challenged.
It does.
And
It
so,
does.
whilst ever Hollywood is promoting and elevating this kind of lie, there needs to be a counter rebuttal from the church that actually says, well, this
Completely.
is actually what the Word
Right.
of God says, and this is the pathway to life.
Yes.
And I don't even
So-
think it's
Yes.
the true representation of the world. Otherwise, it would have been a blockbuster hit.
Right.
Yes.
So
Exactly.
it wasn't.
It's
so,
agenda driven.
So they're
if I can
pushing
say
an
that.
agenda
You
in
just did.
Hollywood.
I
It's
did.
like,
I did.
Say
Yes,
it, Becky.
take it
Somebody
back.
needs to say it.
Yes, it's agenda driven.
Yeah.
It's
Right.
agenda driven. So
we had some interference, but our stellar team is working on it. All will be well, America.
The other movie.
Yes, okay, so the other movie, I haven't seen this, so I could be completely wrong, but this other movie that actually won Best Picture, The Shape of Water. If I'm not mistaken, if anyone's seen it, it is a romantic movie about a woman falling in love with a merman or
What?
a fish.
no, a fish.
merman.
Fish?
Like
I don't know
ga-
if anyone's
like
seen this
Okay,
movie.
so am I on? Okay.
Oh, go there. Come on,
to us,
bring it
Becky.
on. Go.
Probation
we
officer
have
Becky.
movies like The Greatest Showman, who
Stunning.
You're able to,
Yeah.
I mean, oh my gosh, so inspiring, like
Yeah.
to dream big, to step out in faith, to actually not be unfaithful on your wife when it's being thrown at you. Like, oh my goodness,
Yeah.
what an incredible movie. It was stellar. It was
Yeah.
inspiring. Yet we are then
fan.
celebrating and giving people awards for adults having sex with a big goldfish. I don't understand, like, why we're celebrating that versus something that's so inspiring. Faith,
Yeah.
it's just, it's just a contrast of where the world is at, the culture, and
Right.
what they're celebrating and cheering on versus what the church, the truth.
Yeah, and I think people at the
What
end
God
of the day
says.
actually
Yes.
are
Yeah.
craving. They want to know how to live, how to have a
Teach
great
me
marriage,
how
and
to
then
live.
teach me. And this,
And this is the teacher right now, and it can't be.
it can't.
Hollywood is one of the greatest prophetic voices, for better or for worse,
Right.
in the world today. And I think that's what we need to acknowledge, which is why we really do have to, pray for the Lord to raise up men and women who are going to
Men
rise.
and women.
Right.
Talk about
men
the
and
men
women
thing.
who are
I thought
gonna
that was so
raise up
interesting
to
about what he
make great
said.
movies, stories, godly, like Roma Downey is doing
Right.
with her husband right now.
Yeah,
Go ahead,
incredible.
Brianna.
One thing I saw on the Oscars is Jimmy Kimmel.
Okay.
His statement about it was the 90th Academy Award anniversary, and so he was calling it Oscars, 90 years old and probably at home watching Fox News. But one thing he had said was that he is the most loved and respected man in Hollywood.
The Oscar, the actual
The
The
statue.
Right,
actual
yeah.
Oscar.
Okay, the
Wow.
statue, yeah.
Because his hands are where everyone can see, because he doesn't speak a rude word, and because he has no genitals.
Oh.
And so
Okay,
he's a statue of
The emasculation
limitations.
of
I
men.
felt that, Becky.
Yeah, but
The
he's a statue of
emasculation.
limitations, which is what the world needs from every man. And I thought, oh my gosh,
Such a lie.
because the church has been silent, because the church hasn't been raising up men
Right.
to be real strong leaders and men and
Integrous
be able to
men,
help
yeah.
them maybe with some of their difficulties and weaknesses, because
Right.
because the church has failed that. Now we got a world that's speaking up about how to.
And isn't it sad?
pretty
Like honestly,
wookie
if you look at
man.
all the movies out there, right now, The Greatest Showman was one of the only ones in so many years that actually portrayed a really great male, a husband, a father, like a really great. If you look at all of
Yes.
the other movies and even TV right now,
Right.
it really is stripping
Diminishes
the man
man.
down of his masculinity
And his value.
and his value.
Yeah.
And it just, it's a sad thing to actually.
And you walk into
watch and
clothing
see.
stores and it says the future is female. I'm like, oh gosh, I hope not.
Right.
Like I hope
Yeah,
like that is going to be the most emotional, uptight.
Or did I hear today Ann Taylor's
World.
new promotion is about women taking back the pants, like pants are for the women to wear. I'm like,
Yuck,
we're
no
better
thanks.
together, we're better
Well,
together.
Stacey, tell us, because you have some thoughts on that as a single woman, just how feminism to a degree has really made it harder, not easier.
Oh my goodness, like, honestly, feminism.
Go there, Stacey.
You're like ruining my dream, like my ideal. Like tell me, like I wanted to believe for this awesome man that works really hard. You know what? If this man is out there working really hard, taking care of me, let me tell you, yes, please, let me serve you dinner when you come home. Like that is absolutely
Yeah,
the picture
yeah,
that I'm
yeah,
looking
yeah.
for. And feminism is the exact opposite of that. I need to work harder. I need to do all the things that and honestly, as a woman, you have to do what you do as a woman
man can
and
stay
as a
home and
man.
cook.
Yeah.
Like,
Right.
I don't want to live that kind of life.
Yeah.
Please, like, help us with the
And
the
it comes
future.
back to what Brianna was saying, is because the man portrayal out there is one that we,
He's
the men are
weak.
actually awesome. We just don't hear about it enough. We don't champion it enough.
church
There are
has
some
been
great
silent.
men in this world, and we're
Oh,
responsible as
100%.
mothers to raise great men that are going to be great husbands and coverings for their wives,
Agreed. I love that.
yeah.
So let's talk a little bit about the Me Too, hashtag Me Too phenomena that
Yes.
really was such a common thread throughout
Right.
not just the Oscars, but also the Golden Globes.
Yeah.
In fact, this, I think the most recent Golden Globes, most of the women and a lot of the men wore exclusively black to protest sexual assault in Hollywood. So, it's quite an interesting dynamic we have here with Me Too, because on one idea, the idea is brilliant.
Yes.
In that what is being done in secret, the wickedness, the
Yeah.
perversion, the assault is brought out into the light
Right.
and able to be justly dealt with.
Yeah.
Yeah.
However, I want to pose this question because I feel like they've missed it on the execution.
Yeah.
I feel as though these women are not being led anywhere who put their hands up and
Right.
say Me Too,
Right.
anywhere positive. Like there doesn't seem to be healing, there doesn't seem to be forgiveness. It's more we're all angry together. Like we're raging against the man.
Well, how
So-
sad that the world had to get to the point where they had to do the hashtag Me Too.
Right.
If the church had spoken up and be able to create a space for women to really speak up about their hurts and pains and the secret stuff that has happened in their life, like the
Right.
church really should have started a hashtag Me Too where they can get full healing.
Right.
But right now the world has had to start it because the church has been silent. But where
Wow.
are they going to go to? So it's like you're bringing up all these hurts and pains, but then you're turning to anger, resentment, unforgiveness. Like, what do you do with it?
When
Right.
you know, it's interesting because when you actually sit with the woman one-on-one, just them saying what happened, is that really enough?
Yeah.
Right.
I've never
It's
sat
not.
face
It's
to
not
face
the
with a
end of
woman
their
telling
story.
me what happened.
beginning of
and
the
then I walk
journey,
out
not
of the
the
room and
end.
go,
Yeah.
oh, me too.
Yeah.
How
yeah,
does
yeah.
that actually
Yeah.
help and heal the heart of a
Because
woman
all it
that's been
does
hurt?
is identify victimhood. It doesn't lead people into victory.
To-
And as
to victory.
Christians, you know, as that's our job as the church, is not
Yeah.
just to, yes, identify that there's a victim,
Yeah.
there's something that has happened to, which is very valid. But then what? What's the end of that
What's
story?
next? Right.
Lead
there
them
has
into
to be something beyond awareness.
Right.
Me Too
Right.
is not the end of your
Right.
story.
Yeah.
It's
It
a
can't
part
be.
of your story.
Yeah.
Nor will it give you the healing that ultimately you're craving.
And
I
what
think.
if we actually banded together on the healing instead of the hurt?
Right, right.
Yeah.
Like,
Exactly.
what if we actually all stood with one another on what we were able to have victory in?
Yes.
I mean, what would that portray to the
Yeah.
whole world instead of us all uniting by a pain?
Yeah, that's so. I think what Pastor Leanne said. I think good came out of it. Bring
Right.
it into the light, making people
Conversations.
aware that this is happening. So the people that have been felt like they couldn't speak out are actually now speaking
them a
out.
voice,
So that
yeah.
was great. I really can appreciate that it now is up in the forefront, so we can manage and handle and help heal. But you're right; it can't just stop at Me
No.
Too. It can't just say we're just going to rally around the fact that I'm also a victim. A victim mentality, you're never going to get victory. We need to
right.
now the church's response, because I don't
Right.
think we're going to get the proper response from Hollywood. I'm not.
Right,
So
yeah.
so now it's the church's response to deal with #MeToo. Make it
Yes, come on.
available to women to actually get the healing,
Yeah,
to get
there
the
is a
prayer, to get the
place.
deliverance. So how do you walk out this wound so now you can heal and move forward in strength and be able to trust
Yes.
and flourish in your relationship. So
Right.
now it's so they brought it to our attention, but now it's the church's responsibility to have the proper response to
Yeah.
#MeToo and provide the healing and the necessary just
Counsel and
counsel.
prayer.
Yes.
Well, I
So
was going to say, think about what we talked about before. What you celebrate becomes your culture. I think that's the problem. What was celebrated in that movement was victimhood as opposed to victory.
Right,
And that's
right.
what we need to
Distasteful
change the
Distasteful at
celebration.
that, can I just say? I don't.
You can. You asked. You said it.
I
Go
just
for
said
it.
it. I feel like it was distasteful. I don't want to see angry, bitter women holding up all kinds of horrible signs and
weird hats
pictures
and-
and hats. Like, really, is
Yes.
that the woman
Those
that
hats were
today
classy,
that we're
yes.
Tell a
celebrating?
women's march were quite something.
Just saying. Yeah.
It definitely doesn't make us
There's a
beautiful.
better way. There is a better
There is
way.
a way.
100%.
Yeah.
There is a better
Yes,
way. And I think
yes.
too, just even in that, in the poorly executed Me Too movement was never so much seen in the accusations made without giving the accused party a
Yep.
chance to respond.
Right.
So we had trial
Right.
by social media.
Yep.
Yeah.
And so we've seen these reputations tarnished, and we don't know the other side of the story.
Yeah.
In
Right.
fact, there's a proverb I want to read, which I think
Yeah.
is important, and it's going to be great for all our viewers out there. Proverbs 18:13 says, "Spouting off before listening to all the facts is shameful and foolish."
I love
Wow.
Proverbs.
And so, yeah, I mean, it's direct and to the point. So we're seeing a lot of reputations being tarnished
Right.
by
Because
possibly there are people out there using this moment as, to get attention and all that kind of thing. So
Right,
that
right.
needs to be weighed in
There's
the
always
balance as well.
Two sides of the story.
Always. Yes.
And then there's the truth.
Right.
Because it does go
Write
through
that
our
down,
versions
yeah.
and our filters. And some things may very well have happened and they need to be
Yeah.
addressed.
Yeah.
But we can't just give the benefit of the doubt to
Right.
what's being put out there socially.
Right.
Is that
So
actually
true.
the truth?
Right. Yes.
You know, we got to address it.
Well, I feel like we kind of exhausted that one. We beat that one. I'm sure we'll have a lot more to say on that. We're going to move on because so much has been happening. I mean, do you guys feel like, though, you wake up in the morning and when you look at the news, it's just like another day,
Dun, dun,
another
Yes, it is.
scandal, another like earth-shattering
Get ready, get
story.
ready.
I mean, if we're not in the last days, I'll eat my hat. I mean, I know we've been saying it's the last
I don't know
days
how
for
that would
like
work. Yeah, a long time.
for like hundreds of years, but I feel like these last days are
Right,
even laster
right.
than last time.
Yes.
The lastest of
The
the
lastest of the last.
Okay.
Yeah.
So sadly, we all woke up to the news, I believe it was 2-3 weeks ago,
Right.
of a shooting in Florida, Parkland. 17 precious lives
Yeah.
taken, which is horrifying. It has now ignited a national conversation around guns, gun
Right.
safety.
Right.
I know for me, and look, Emmy, you're going to share into this,
Yeah.
but coming from Australia, we do view things very differently. I've never seen a gun, never held a gun, don't own a gun. There is so much I don't know. So
Right.
I wade
guys
into
are
this
missing out.
water very cautiously. But I think it's worth us having a conversation here today, because the difference between Australia and America is America has a Second Amendment. It has a constitution.
Right.
And the Second Amendment, I'm going to read it here so we're kind of brought up to speed a little bit. A well-regulated militia being necessary to the security of a free state, the right of the people to keep and bear arms shall not be infringed. Okay, so this is where we're seeing these two sides of America right now, you know, these two colliding traits coming together, and we're seeing the sparks and the reverberations across the nation. I think I'm going to start with Becky, who was in probation and really worked with the police force. Tell us your thoughts, and we're going to move on to Emma.
Right, there's so many layers, so I have probably 5 different thoughts, but I think just addressing like the gun control, so there's so many layers that we need to address. Having actual assault weapons, like, is that appropriate? When someone actually has had a mental health diagnosis, has depression, has suicidal tendencies, shows, like, do we instill, like how there's mandated reporters, like for abuse with a child, if we know that someone is volatile, not in the right state of mind, do we need to now establish mandated reporting for those counselors or school counselors or parents? Like, so we need to deal with it from many different angles, because a lot of these shootings happen with individuals who were mentally ill, and there was red flags, and unfortunately things weren't done about it.
And when they're not reported, I heard that, you know, a lot of this stuff, a lot of these people aren't flagged or deemed mentally ill because the reports aren't going from the police to the parties that need to hear that.
So that's why it needs to be so many different. One system is not going to be a solve-all to gun violence. So this last particular horrible situation, he was flagged numerous times. I think I was listening this morning. It was about 30 people, 30 something had actually said he's going to be trouble. Like he's potentially going to commit a shooting, and sadly that slipped through someone's hands, and now 17 lives are lost, which is just horrific. So there's so many different angles. I, for one, don't think taking away firearms is the solution, because so again, couple that with what I just said, having some different regulations and things, putting in place safeguards. None of it's going to fix everything completely. But as a probation officer, I worked in the violent crimes unit for 7 years. And I will tell you, if they say everyone needs to turn in their firearms, let me tell you, the only people that are going to turn in their firearms are the law-abiding citizens. So the people that are going to still be armed with firearms and assault weapons will be the criminals, because they're going to get it, and they're going to get it no matter what the laws are. And so now, if something like that were to be put in place, we would all be left completely defenseless, and crimes I think would be increased, because they would be like, oh, if I break into this house, they're not going to have a weapon to take care of me. So you can just imagine in a criminal's mind what's going to happen if they know no one else can defend themselves.
You could probably imagine.
And they
more
have.
than we
I
could.
could imagine.
Probably.
Yes, I could. I actually have a firearm. I have a very good shot. First time, took out the entire bullseye.
mess with
Hello,
this girl. I don't
beat out my
mess.
husband.
I do not mess with
Yes,
Becky.
don't mess with me. So that's my problem. And we don't live in a fairy tale land. So it's like, oh, take the firearms away, and everyone's going to grow wings and have pixie dust. It is not. We are not living in a world where there is not sin and anger and hostility and evil. It's going to happen, and we have to be able to protect ourselves.
So listen to this. I think this is interesting. It's going to add another layer to the conversation. This is a quote I found by John Adams, who was the second US president. He said this: "Our Constitution was made only for a moral and religious people. It is wholly inadequate to the government of any other."
Wow.
So when we're looking at a lot of the things that are happening in the world, and we've got really now the fruits of are people who have basically said, we don't want God. We don't want, we don't want any form of God or church infringing on our personal lives. And now we're seeing the result of all this stuff. So I have this theory that I secretly want you all to agree with.
It's not a secret any longer.
So not secretly, that's right. It's out. That you shouldn't be able to have a firearm unless you're pro-life.
Oh, interesting. All right.
Yeah.
Like if you're not pro-life, what business do you have having a gun? I don't get it. If you're not a moral and godly person, maybe you shouldn't have a firearm. Because if the
Agreed.
Constitution is set up for a moral and religious, let's just call it godlike group of people, then can I trust you with a firearm if you don't care about lives and you don't have any moral compass or boundaries?
An interesting question.
There are some religious people that I think still have mental and emotional issues that I probably
I would say
wouldn't
more
give a
godlike.
firearm.
When I say like religious, my
Right.
thought is more thinking like someone who lives according to the tenets of
Like
the
thou
Bible.
shalt not
Successful
kill.
You know,
Christian
here's the thing, is
Yeah.
that sadly, you know, going from the second U.S. president to today, sadly, I think it's been watered down. Where are the moral people? Where are the upstanding citizens? And that's, you know, we have to take some responsibility in that,
Yes.
and who we're putting into government and who we're putting into
Right.
offices that are now making rulings that were never really, truly, you know, intended. So.
Right.
Can I just speak to the
Yes.
opposite? And I just think there's probably some comments I have that are different to yours. So coming from Australia, Australia's brought up a lot actually in this discussion because it seemed as the successful response to something. So for those of you that don't know, Australia had a horrific massacre several years ago, and their response was to take away the weapons, and
Yeah,
they did. And
Port
since
Arthur.
that moment, except for a few isolated incidents, actually hasn't been any crime of that magnitude. So that's actually a conversation Leanne and I had a lot. Like,
Right.
I don't understand why that isn't a solution. But just to kind of peel it back,
Australia is an island,
it
though.
is an island.
Right.
I will say that. Australia, you know, is surrounded by shark-infested waters.
That it is, and true. But I really think this issue, and can I just say, I don't necessarily agree with everything Becky says, but we can still be friends and have a healthy
Right.
discussion. It doesn't have to end up, you know, going to town on Facebook and fighting with each other.
Right.
It's healthy to actually have these
true.
discussions.
Yeah.
And it's
Yeah.
iron sharpening iron. The Bible
That's
says
right.
iron sharpens iron, which can't happen without spark. So
Yeah.
I love that we can have a healthy discussion, really
Yeah.
look at what is the biblical response and come to a conclusion. I think both of us would agree, gun stuff aside, that this is an issue of the heart, because out of the
Yes.
heart, the
Yes.
issues of life flow. So I think this is much bigger. And how can the church respond in this? Yes, we can have healthy discussion, but I think we really need to look at how well are we leading people so that the conditions of their heart are
Right.
of such that they aren't being in a position where they're making such horrible choices to.
Well, I think
to
maybe
make.
we need to learn how to stop being selfish. Because the truth is, if we're only concerned about ourselves, then we have less inclined ears to hear the cry of another
Right.
human heart because we're so
Right.
consumed with our own cry. And I think we all have pains, we all have hurts, we all have
Yes.
things, but there is definitely other layers. Like you heard, mental illness, 30 people that heard a cry and
Didn't answer.
abdicated responsibility to do something about it. And I'm definitely not saying that I'm perfect. I'm sure that I have walked across many people that I haven't stopped, and helped. But
Right.
I think that we really need to address ourselves and learn how to not be so consumed with our own world and our own pain that we don't take the time to look to the people that do have, hurts and pains and address those. We've got to step out.
Yeah.
In my
And,
opinion.
and getting God and Scripture and the Word of God back into our
Yeah.
schools.
Come
Amen.
on.
Really, if
Oh,
we
amen.
want to
No
look
one would
at
disagree with
it
that. Yeah.
stemming
Come on.
properly from, the right source, the violence that's
Yeah.
happening in our schools, to get God back in schools.
Yeah.
And Brianna, I know that you and your team at My City and the youth ministry are really working hard here in San Diego
Yeah.
Come
to
on.
get and be an advocate for our
Right.
students and really be ambassadors for God there. Because I'm thinking, imagine if this young man, who went into his school and shot up 17 people, horrifying.
yeah.
Imagine if there was a Bible program, a scripture program in his school where he's being taught there is a God
Yeah.
who loves you,
Right.
who
Right.
created you with a purpose and an intent.
Changes
He's
the
for
story.
you, he's
Changes
not
the
against you.
story.
If there was
Yep.
prayer and honest conversation
Right.
about the fact that you have a future and a hope, and when
Right.
his mother passed away, there was
Right.
proper help. And I just think there were so many things that
Yeah.
happened. These things don't happen overnight. It's not one issue, as you say, it's multiple that snowball.
Right.
And then here we are, and these devastating effects.
So that's how the church can be a response to this. I think, how does the
Yes.
church respond to something like
Right.
this? We really look at our eyes to see people and
Yes.
realize the significance of what we do every Sunday. There are people that are in incredible pain. This poor boy was isolated. He was lonely. He was confused. He
no
didn't have
one showed
identity.
up at his mom's funeral.
I mean, your
Like,
heart.
Is that right?
You
he
know?
had nobody. I think the church needs to be family, needs to be community.
Right.
It's not an event that we go to on a Sunday.
Right.
Yeah.
The truth is this kid had no family.
Right.
No one showed up to the funeral. He was isolated and alone and angry. And if the church really is a church that is a community and a family, and at school even, where Christian counselors and Christian kids and
We need to
teachers
start
can come
engaging
around
again in our
him.
community.
I think we need
Yes.
to say too, when we're
Yeah.
talking about the church, we aren't talking about the pastors only.
Right, and the
I
building.
just, I think that when we're talking like this, we're talking about the church, it's all the people inside the church, which is actually what makes up the church. So I just want to make sure that's clear
The church is
as
people.
we're chatting, that
not
this
a
isn't
building.
for the select few of people to
No.
abide by, but it's all of us together.
It's all of us together going out and trying to reach people for Jesus.
Right.
And it seems overwhelming, like, oh, we have to change the world. All these people need Jesus. It can
Right.
seem overwhelming, but if each and every one of us could do our part in changing the world that we are in,
Right.
so it's literally one person at a time. You
Right.
reach one person's heart at a time. And if every single believer is doing that, we are reaching one at a time. And slowly, we are going to start literally saving the world. And that is our responsibilities as believers. We need to look outside of ourselves, stop being selfish. And just having the eyes to see who God has in our path that day, to reach out to that person that no one else wants to talk to because they're awkward and weird and wearing black eyeliner
And the world is
and
getting
doing.
more
These
awkward
are the
and more
ones we
weird.
are called
Me
to.
saying
We
that.
are called to. We are called
Right.
to. And so we cannot shrink back. Now is not a time to shrink back. Now is
Come
the
on.
time to
Yes.
step into our calling to make disciples, to reach the lost, to go out into the highways and byways and bring people in to the house of God, into relationship, into friendships. And if we can do that, if we can take responsibility as believers, the Great Commission, we can see this change. This does not have to
Because
be
then
our
it's not-
future.
It's not awareness and stop. It's awareness and address
Yes.
and heal.
So
Right.
let's put all the energy in the right direction. We can have all the conversation in the world about gun laws, and maybe we should. But honestly, right direction. Put that energy into
Yeah.
who in your world are you seeing,
Right.
who are you helping them with the conditions of their
And
heart.
let's pray
Amen.
for our government
Come
and
on.
let the church do
Let's.
what the church does best.
Yes.
Let's do it.
Yes.
Come on.
Amen.
Right.
Okay, so we're going to move on. Brian Thornhills, a father in Virginia, disciplined his son. This is a story that kind of hit the
Yesterday,
airwaves
right?
yesterday.
Yeah.
Disciplined his son by making him run 1 mile to school. So he was following him apparently in his
Okay.
car. I mean, miles not that far, let's face it. But I believe the kid was
We could
like
all
10
probably
or
run a
11.
few miles here.
Yes.
Why are you looking at me while saying that?
I haven't worked out in
see
5
why
years.
In my
Don't-
world, but
Well,
not
he had to
judging.
run.
You
So he
run the mile,
normally
Becky.
took the bus, but
Right.
he was kicked off the bus for
being-
bullying. And
yeah.
apparently
Oh, wow.
he was climbing over chairs and,
He was banned for like 3 days.
yes,
on the bus.
punching and kicking another kid in
This
the groin.
kid's 10, right? He
So
was a
it's
10-year-old.
legitimate, you
Okay.
know, like there was
Legit.
some
Discipline,
legitimate.
okay.
And so this father received quite a lot of backlash because he made his kid run to school, filmed it on Facebook Live. That's a thing. And we're just talking about his old school parenting. And so he received a lot of backlash. I want to know your thoughts, many of you on this panel are parents today, about
Yep.
this father's choice of discipline. What do you think?
I appreciate it. Sorry.
Probation officer.
I know, probation officer Becky. Yeah, sorry, not sorry.
Yeah.
Here's the thing. We have to deal with bullying. Thank God
Yeah.
he's not going to tolerate this, because if he doesn't put an end to it, like, who knows what can happen with that level of bullying, how he's going to damage other kids and wound other kids at school. Like, I thank God that parents actually don't turn a blind eye and
Right.
think that their kid's perfect and
They
can do no
should.
wrong.
They should
and
address
address it right away. Like, he was running to school in the rain. You know what? He's not going to die.
That's
Not going
right.
to die. He might be a little embarrassed. Good. You know? I mean, and here's the thing. Yeah, okay, so the dad filming it
That's
and
what we think
commentating.
over this side of the
okay,
I mean, that's
so
the part where I'm
you
going to
know,
not
yeah.
appreciate publicizing.
but I don't think
don't
he
think
thought
he
it
helpful.
showed,
How
I
is
don't
that
think
helpful?
he showed his son's
didn't show his face. He didn't know it was going to go viral and be on the news.
But maybe it went
if you're
viral for a
concentrating
reason.
if you're concentrating on discipline and at the same time videoing,
No, he's helping other parents, because there's parents are wusses.
It was after
Oh
the
my
run, though,
gosh.
that he
Parents
kind of
are
like
wusses.
videotaped
It's
himself
true.
and his kid, and it was a little bit of an arrogant thing. So I'm all for discipline. Like, thank God we have some parents in the world
Right.
that are still disciplining their kids, because the truth is it's not happening very often anymore. I know I feel ashamed sometimes if my kids are throwing a tantrum in a store, that I'm like, oh my gosh, like I don't want CPS to call me, but my daughter needs a
That's why
a
you
good
travel
whooping.
with a wooden spoon in your handbag and you take them. I used to take my boys
yes. I have
a
to the
naughty spoon.
restroom
Yes.
and I'd be
Yes.
like, and you know what, even if we're in the grocery store, I'd be like, you know that this grocery store has a wooden spoon aisle, right?
Wave that spoon.
I mean, I agree. I mean, I
But-
can totally see that perspective, and yeah, you're right. He's kind of humiliating his son in a way. So, you know, hey,
But
no
an
one's
hour run's
perfect.
not gonna hurt him.
No one's perfect.
Well, here's what the Bible says. I want to throw this in for discussion. Proverbs 19:18. Discipline your children while they are young enough to learn. And just so I can add, a 10-year-old bully, if it's not addressed, will grow into a 30, 40, 50-year-old bully.
Yes.
Absolutely.
If you don't, you are helping them destroy themselves. And some versions says you're actually a party. Don't be a party to their death.
Wow.
So the Bible equates discipline or a lack of discipline and death and destruction together. So isn't that interesting?
Yeah. I think the good in that situation outweighed the bad. I actually think parents go, oh, this is actually a creative way to discipline, and isn't just taking away a device or spanking. Like, we can be creative, and he's never going to forget that. Yeah. He's never going to forget the fact that he had to run a mile to school in the rain with his backpack,
and his
with
dad
his dad filming him.
Viral.
You know, and I truly, I don't know this father, but he's committed to raising a respectable, moral, and kind individual. I can guarantee you, after that moment, he's had the heart-to-hearts. What's going on? Like, I mean, if he's going to go to that length to make sure his kid turns out to not be a bully, I can guarantee you he's having those kind of conversations.
And the kid's not a bully
dealing with the
because
heart
he's
issue.
a parent like that, which is what some people think. Oh, well, you're being a bully, so that's why your son does
Yeah, that
it.
was a lot of the backlash that he had.
That's the honest truth is your kid's not going to be a bully because you discipline him. Like, my kids don't hit other kids because I sometimes spank. It doesn't work
Because when kids
that
hit,
way.
they're punching. They're not going spanking each other.
Right.
They're slapping and
naughty.
fighting
So would
and
we
punching.
agree the idea of it's right, and we do
Yes.
need to bring discipline back. I think discipline's like a dirty word. We need to be okay with the fact that we're actually stewards as parents. We're stewards of our children, and we have to teach them the ways to live. I love what that scripture says. In my opinion, I don't know if the execution was one I would have gone with, but I love that it starts the conversation. As a parent, I want to feel like disciplining my child is something I can talk about, and it's not shunned, because actually my godly mandate being a parent is to help them, teach them how to live and live good life.
That's right. Train up a child in the way they should go.
And they don't
it
depart
all
from
happens.
it.
We've got like an 18-year window.
And training them means actually training them. Because you have even like the Hollywoods are, oh, they're just going to raise themselves. That's not pretty as an adult.
No.
To be raised yourself.
We have to pastorally care for a lot of people that had to drag themselves up.
I've had to talk to many a person that was left to their own devices. And people left to their own devices, when you're growing up and you're not shaped and you're not trained by especially, godly principles and godly word, turn out with all kinds of hurts, pains, all kinds of things that later on then hopefully are
Because
addressed.
a parent's job is to instill identity. So to not have discipline means you actually don't know who you are. So, I'm personally thankful for my parents and the discipline moments of my life.
Gosh, I was scared of my mom. I love her now, but
I was scared of my
I
mom
got
too.
out.
I had a healthy fear. Like,
A little
I
fear is a
really
good
did.
thing.
And it stops me from,
and you have to do
save
it
me
when
from
they're
a lot of
young.
stuff.
If you don't do it when they're young, like I remember, and I hope my mom or brother's not watching, but if you don't instill respect and honor and kindness as a young person, when they get bigger than you, we're in trouble. I remember my mom trying to tell my teenage brother he was not leaving the house, and he said, "Watch me," and he picked her up and put her out of the way.
Moly.
So if you don't instill in your child when they are young, so I am all for this. I am all for it. And I agree it could have maybe.
So when you see Becky driving down the road with her two boys running
Hey.
to school in the rain, you know
Come
what
into
will
a
happen.
I had to have a
Facebook Live meeting.
conversation.
talking about it.
run, Forrest, run.
Last Saturday was my son's last championship football game. I have a 9 and 10-year-old little boys and a daughter, but my oldest is so competitive that when he came off the field, he was losing. And this is just, a bad parenting moment. He freaked out and said, "I'm gonna kill everybody." Because he like, "Oh yeah, guys." I'm like, "Oh my God." So everyone heard it, okay? So I literally, and I don't care what everyone was thinking about me at that moment, I dragged him behind the shed. And I tried to spank him, but we were on a dirt hill and he kept sliding away from my hand. And I'm like, "Gosh darn it, I just need to spank you." And
The standstill run.
oh my gosh.
That's right.
And I told him, I literally brought up the story about the shooting. I was like, "How dare you?"
Yeah.
I was like, "You want to kill everybody?" And I had to have this huge moment. And I said,
man.
"You will not be playing in your next game." And that hurts the team. My husband's the coach. Like, it's not a good situation, but I refuse to raise a child with no self-control, no discipline,
fruit of the
saying
spirit.
unkind
And
things.
did you follow through on that? He didn't play in the
Oh yeah,
next
he's
game?
not playing, and
Good.
we've had the
Good.
conversation.
The
'cause now
follow-through is important.
We're going
A
into
lot of parents
baseball.
threaten,
We're going into
but they
baseball,
don't
so
follow
here we
through.
go. We're already, being strategic. What we're going to do if we want to kill everyone? How do we respond? Do we just run 3 laps? Do we sit? I don't know. Help me. Just pray for me.
But that's so important.
I'm just
Teaching
saying.
someone how to process their emotions.
Yes.
Like that's important.
Creative ways of outlets of anger in a healthy
Yeah.
way. Yes.
Right.
Yes, beautiful. Well, we've got a couple of questions that have been kind of bubbling through here
yes.
on my
okay.
phone. I'm not sure how much time we have left. I think we have no time left.
5 minutes.
Can we do
All right,
one?
maybe
minutes or
5.
so.
One or two,
All right,
one or two,
let's
one
have
or
a look
two.
at this.
Oh my gosh.
Okay, how can we as women help curb wives dishonoring their husbands, especially behind their back, and encourage our girlfriends to, speak of their husbands better than they have been? It's a good question.
Wow.
I would say we've just got to be the example. So as a mature believer, so much is caught, not taught. So how do I curb it? By being the antithesis of what we're trying to curb.
And I think if you see something, say
Say
something.
something. Yeah.
Because some people, they think that's normal. So if
Right,
they've
and
been
it's-
raised
Right.
in a household where mum has continually thrown
Right.
dad under the bus, or vice versa, where the spouses have spoken
Right.
poorly about each other in public, you literally say, wow, I can't believe you're talking about your husband that way in front of people.
Right.
Even if it's the truth.
Yeah.
Right.
This is not the
There's
context.
a time and a place. Yeah.
I've had that conversation many times with people, and then you just give them some scripture, like, you can't curse what God has called you to bless. And out of the
on.
same mouth
Yeah.
can't come cursing and blessing. And so
Yeah.
it's just almost because that's probably just how they do things.
their
That's what
normal.
they witness. That's just normal. They don't think it's
the
wrong
culture
or
of today.
inappropriate or disrespectful. So it's almost like, again, discipling people. Like
Yes.
having those conversations. And you know what? They're going to thank you for it later. And the husband will for sure thank you for it later.
Right.
You know?
And introduce them to some proactive ways of dealing with their frustrations. So quite often it's not just change your speech. The speech definitely needs to
Part of
change.
it.
But
Yeah.
also if you have some legitimate
Right.
frustrations that are bubbling out in public, deal with them proactively.
Right.
Right.
And actually publicly shaming your spouse isn't a way
Right.
to deal with it. In fact, it'll make it a whole
Worse.
lot worse.
Don't do
Didn't you
it.
say, Lanny, as well, that, gossip ends at a wise woman's ears?
Right.
I believe was the quote.
Yeah.
So even if you're the bystander, which I am sometimes.
Right, aren't we all?
People come
Yeah.
to the friend or to the BFF.
Yeah.
The gossip can stop with you.
Yeah.
Right.
If we take responsibility for ourselves, when we start to hear that kind of like, oh, I don't want to hear that. Go deal
Right.
in your marriage.
Right.
I don't need to know.
Right.
Yeah, yeah.
Well,
Can't stop
and
with
well,
that.
what you said too, out of the abundance of the heart, the mouth speaks. So if they are spewing things in a public setting, it tells you right there that something's not healthy in their heart.
Right.
Right.
That there's some wounds, some undealt with things. So it's our responsibility to deal with the issues of the heart and to love each other enough, love our friends enough to have those hard conversations and say what needs to be said.
Yeah.
Get some healing in their marriage.
And practically, what does that look like? I mean, talk to the right person who can resource you. I'm a big fan of marriage counselling. I know for me and my husband,
Yeah.
it's something we invest in ourselves because even
done it.
Ferraris need a tune-up. It's not about how. It's actually really we fine-tune everything else we're doing. We invest in everything else. Why not the most important thing, our marriage?
Amen
Yes.
to that.
Yeah.
So that doesn't matter what you're going through. If your marriage is healthy, like it's what
Yeah.
you need to be investing in.
That's
So-
right.
So
That's great.
counselling. I don't know if you
Great.
guys had any other practical tips of what women could do in that situation.
Again, I think they need to talk to the right people.
Talk to the
I think
right
not
people.
everybody initially can afford to get a counsellor,
Right.
see a therapist initially. That's why it's so important to be part of a healthy community.
Yes.
Yes.
A connect group, a cell group, a Bible study,
Yeah.
someone who's can keep a confidentiality,
Right.
someone who's got the wisdom of God, dwelling within them. They're
And who can
people-
speak faith, because often women are living in
Yeah.
fear that this is never going to get better. Have someone that will encourage
And
you.
the world is very much if life sucks right now, maybe you married the wrong person.
Yeah.
So
Follow your heart.
Yeah, follow your
follow your
heart.
emotions.
Yes, exactly.
Yeah,
So
won't
there.
help. Won't help.
Yeah. All right. Well, we
All right.
have basically come to an end of Facebook Live
I feel
Cherish
like the Oscar
TV.
music's coming up.
We do have to announce our competition winner. Competition winner of a Cherish 2018 conference registration is
Da-da-da.
Melissa Sandoval.
Yay!
Congratulations,
Yes,
Melissa.
South
You are
Campus
coming
girl.
to see us at Cherish Conference
How
2018.
exciting.
Girls, hey, if you
Yes.
are not Melissa Sandoval and you would like to come to Cherish, we want you to be there.
Please.
Yeah.
Bring your friends. It is going to be a revolution, what happens in this city in September this year. So I want you to go onto c3cherish.com and register. Come be part of the party. Come be part of the fun. We can't wait to see you again next time on Cherish TV. Thanks for joining us. We love you and God bless.
Who can find a virtuous woman? For her worth is far above rubies. She seeks wool and flax, and willingly works with her hands. She is like the merchant ships. She brings her food from afar. She also rises while it is yet night, and provides food for her household. She girds herself with strength, and her lamp does not go out by night. She stretches out her hands to the distaff, and her hand holds the spindle. She extends her hand to the poor. Yes, she reaches out her hands to the needy. She is not afraid of snow for her household, for all her household is clothed with scarlet. She makes tapestry for herself. Strength and honor are her clothing. She shall rejoice in time to come.